I'm your host, Sean Aaron, and welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. This show is a platform where trans men of color voices can be amplified as we share our transitional stories and many other issues that are relatable to trans men of color and our existence. This show is not only to amplify our voices, but to raise awareness and conversation around our lived experiences.
My next guest I had the privilege to sit down with is Cairo Nevitt. Cairo currently lives in the UK. He's a poet, a filmmaker, a community builder, a coach, an actor, a model. And this is actually Cairo's first season competing as a professional bodybuilder. Within this episode, we talked about body dysphoria, mental health, family. At the end, Cairo gave a really heartfelt message to parents who are parents of trans-identified children. We also discussed professional bodybuilding and barriers competing as a trans man of color. This is a really good episode. I know I say that about a lot of the episodes, but this is a really good episode. Cairo is very knowledgeable. He gives a lot of advice. This is a really heartfelt, warm, and some points of it is a very emotional episode. So take a listen, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, this is Sean Aaron. I'm the founder and executive director of Dem Bois Inc. I am also the host of Dem Bois Podcast. As you may know, Dem Bois provides financial assistance to trans men of color in order for them to obtain gender-affirming surgery. We have great news. We're currently looking for volunteers to help support our programs. Our programs include our Gender Affirming Surgery Grant Program and also our Personal Care Package Program. We personally curate packages filled with personal hygiene items. Just to name a few, things like tissue, soap, towels, toothpaste, and toothbrushes. We mail them out to trans men of color across the country who may be in need of help caring for their personal hygiene needs. We are looking for volunteers to help raise funds to support our programs. Also, we're looking for someone locally to the Bay Area to help us put all of the care packages together. If our mission is something that resonates with you and you would like to help support our work, just let us know. You can send an email to hello@dembois.org. That is HELLO@DEMBOIS.org. And we will get back to you with further details. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the next episode. Welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his. And my next guest is a poet, a filmmaker, a community builder, a coach, an actor, a model, a bodybuilder, all of those things. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me.
So you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Cairo Nevitt. Mostly on social media, you might see me as Cairo Leon. I'm a trans man from London, and I'm excited to be on the show.
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad to have you. And just to put into a little bit of context, so I'm in the Bay Area, which is on the west coast of the United States, and it is 3 a.m. for me, but for Cairo, it's 11 a.m. So 8 hours ahead. So yeah, we're finally getting to meet with the time difference, and I'm so happy that you're here.
Yeah, no, like that's a commitment right there. So see, but it's all about connection, sometimes you just gotta find these little windows of opportunities. And it's been a long time coming, but I'm really happy. I'm loving the background as well that you have along that king. We've both got like matching yellow yellow gold vibes in our rooms, so I'm loving that.
I love that.
That king vibes out here.
Yeah, for folks who can't see me, well, of course you can't see me, you can only hear me. I just have a tapestry on the wall, and it's a black man with the beard, and he has a gold crown and gold accessories, and also behind me is a couch, and so my pillows match his gold accessories, so my pillows are gold. Yeah, so Cairo, how did that name Cairo, how did that choose you?
Yeah, I felt like it chose me. That's a good way of explaining it. Basically, obviously, I suppose when you have the chance of choosing your own name, some people like me, I'm like, oh, I'm an opportunist. What can we do? What name can we have? So I was like, oh, let me explore. I didn't actually explore like practically. I just was like looking at all these names for months and months. And I knew I wanted a name that began with C, because I wanted it to be close to my previous name, because I had always liked my name before. But obviously it wasn't quite 100% representing who I am. So I wanted it to be very close because I wanted it to feel like home and that familiarity. So my nickname's always been Kai. My name before was Cairo. I'm not, I don't mind sharing that. It was Cairo before. So my nickname was always Kai. And I think I remember, I don't know why, I think I remember my nan referring to me as Cairo when I was younger. I don't really know why. I think it was like a little nickname. And I was thinking about what other names did I like at one point? I was thinking about Channing at one point, like Channing Tatum. Thinking, okay, who would call some cool actors? Like, I don't know what kind of role do I want to get involved in. So I don't usually tell people that, but yeah, at one point I was thinking about Channing because it means wolf as well, or something like that. And then Cairo was basically the first one that I found. Went around all the houses, looking at all these different like boy names in the baby books, asking friends, looking at films, books, all these different references. And then I realized they didn't quite feel like mine. And I can't remember where the dots aligned and everything clicked, but I've returned back to Cairo and I was like, actually, this feels really good. So I decided on the name Cairo. And then I don't know why I did this in this order, but later I looked up the meaning, and Cairo means victorious. I was like, oh my God, I've definitely got the right name for me. Because I think as someone who's had a lot of different hardships in my life, I definitely have had to overcome many situations and many things even before I ever transitioned, and then transitioning and going through all the different processes and different things. I feel like, having that victorious, that kind of overcoming element is very suited to me, my character, my personality. So, basically, it was like the first time I found and then explored and then returned back to Cairo.
Nice. And I think that's why I asked, like, how did the name choose you? Because obviously it chose you, right? If you don't even know the meaning of it, and then to find out later after you already decided on it that it means victorious, and that's something that resonates with you. That's perfect, and it goes along with how the name chose you. I love that. I love that. So tell us about your transition journey from before and the beginning until now.
Okay, so keep the summary version.
Oh, we love the long version.
So you don't know me. I can talk for England. Okay, so basically going back to more or less the beginning. The beginning I would describe as the point where I was starting to get those feelings of like really, truly maybe experiencing dysphoria like on a more continuous basis, or really having like these, like I call them like life quakes, like these little earthquake moments that happen in your life that you can't really ignore any longer. So this was back in like, what year was it? It was about 2016. So good, like 5-6 years ago. And basically it was November. So it was around my birthday. Team Scorpio. But I just basically turned 25 years old, and up until that point, I mean, I'm still a bit of a workaholic now. I have a bit more balance, but up until that point, I've never stopped. Basically, as an adult, never had a moment to myself, ever, always working. And I thought, in many aspects, I was pretty successful. I'd spent a lot of time building up my career as a female actor, as a female model, artist. So all this money I'd invested in like headshots, show reels, all that stuff. I literally was just kind of getting somewhere in my industry. And then I had a knee injury. So this knee injury basically took me out of the game. And it was a journey of then actually being quite unwell and written off work for nearly a year. So then I had the knee injury, and it's like everything was just stacking on top. So I had knee injury, so that got me out of work. And then I had like vitamin deficiencies, I had really poor health. And then I was like having dysphoria, but I didn't know the word for it at the time. I just knew I just didn't feel aligned, and I just felt all these different emotions, and I just felt in my head. My mental health was really poor. My physical health was poor back then. Just everything was like kind of on a decline. And just before this had happened, basically sometimes I do filmmaking, and I just wanted to do a little documentary, just meeting people in the LGBT community. And this was going back 6 years ago. I remember wanting to make a film that was inclusive of every letter, because at that point, you know, if you see an LGBT documentary, mostly it's just featured around just gay men or just lesbians, like people who are bisexual often left out, and trans people were not included, like pretty much at all. So I really wanted to meet other people. And just pure chance, I felt like, again, this is something that chose me rather than the other way around. I only filmed for 2 days because it was just a little production, like no budget. But one of the days, every person that I interviewed was trans, and I did not plan it that way. But I learned so much about these people on that day. It was so, on one hand, empowering, but it was actually really overwhelming, because at that point I hadn't sort of accepted or even begun to explore the possibility of me being transgender at that point, because I didn't have any references. I didn't know, truthfully. I was just in the dark. But hearing all these courageous stories from different ages, different races, like some people were like, I don't know, like in their early 20s, and some people were coming up to 60. And they were saying how every big like 40, 50, all those big birthdays, they had this impulse to transition, but they never did. And all of them said that they wished that they followed their instinct sooner. And then also describing their like relationship to their body and dysphoria and socially, it was really like starting to connect the dots for me. So basically, after I did that film project, it was across a weekend. The next week, I was just like a little recluse at home, and I was just like, oh my God, like it really woke up something in me. And then I started to like go down the road of like research and watching different videos on YouTube. And I think I just started getting into Instagram back then. So I found like other trans people online and was really keen to hear their stories, particularly trans men, and also particularly trans men of color as well, because like when you're looking at these images, to maybe think, how would I look like, or to sort of see the possibilities, having people that look like you is also important as well. I think definitely is important. So yes, I did this film that kind of gave me my little life quake, as I call it, and then I was just like in this limbo for a few months. So I still had my knee injury. I was waiting for physiotherapy on the waiting list. So I couldn't go anywhere. At my worst, I couldn't go up and down stairs or anything. And I was basically isolated. So before we even had a lockdown and a global pandemic, I sort of suddenly got familiar with isolation, because I just was at home waiting to kind of get better. But I just started watching all these videos, and it was really overwhelming. And I remember my ex-girlfriend at the time, because we got together in a lesbian relationship. I remember she was watching some of the videos with me, and she was like, I remember one day she was like, do you think that you're trans, Cairo? Like, you know, hearing some of these stories and hearing some of the things that you say and how you behave, like, I kind of basically, you know, she called me out and said, you know, I think you're trans. And I, at that point, even though I knew it was true, there was a part of me that somewhere inside knew it was true. I was just not ready at that point to accept it. I really, you know, I'm so out and proud now, but in that moment I was scared. I was scared of losing everything that I loved. I was scared about losing my career. I was scared about losing like the relationship, just everything. I just didn't know, even want to begin to open Pandora's box. So I said, I denied it. And then I suppose I had another month of like, again, like isolation here, stuck with my own thoughts. And then I was like, I do, you know, these things are resonating with me. And as scary as it is, I know that this is my truth. And once I decided in my head that that was, you know, my truth, I knew that I couldn't then go back and live a lie. So even though I didn't have all the answers yet, I knew that I had to be brave and just follow this journey through. And that's kind of what I did. And between then, the next kind of 6 months were probably the toughest time for me, because I was still ill pretty much. And my confidence had taken a knock. And then now that I'm actually saying out loud that I'm trans, I had even more dysphoria because all these suppressed feelings started to arise. And it was just a really hard time. And then basically, I eventually, you know, got my rehab. My knee was better. I was ready to kind of go back out into the world. But in between that 6-month period, I technically had started like socially transitioning. So I did change my wardrobe. That was the first thing I did. My ex, she took me shopping. She's like, what's one thing that we can do now? You know, there's a lot of waiting lists, but we can go shopping. So we did. I'm the oldest of 4. I've got 3 younger sisters, and they were all delighted to take my wardrobe. They're like hyenas. I was like, well, you can have all this stuff now, Before they try to take your new clothes, you haven't even worn it once. That's what siblings are like, aren't they? Well, mine are. So they were delighted. The rest I donated to charity, and I was just like relieved to get rid of it. And then basically, because I lived in a house of all women at the time, like just my mom and my 3 younger sisters, there was all these boxes everywhere suddenly, and all this men's clothes on the washing line. And my mum was just like, what's going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, first of all, there's just like one pair, and I don't know, I'm open-minded. Next thing, it's like everywhere you go, it's just all this men's clothes. And it was really obvious in my household when it was just women. And I remember her like calling me out one day, and I was just so defensive. Like, it was so weird. I was 25, but I just turned into like a stroppy teenager. And I was just like, because it just caught me off guard. I was honestly not prepared to have that conversation in that second. And we have a good relationship even. But I was just like, I just sort of blurted out, it's because I'm trans, and sort of stormed off to my bedroom. I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't have the answers then. I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it. I didn't want, I don't know, I didn't want people to doubt me because I didn't have the information that I needed. So I just didn't want to talk about it. And then we left it. So we let some space to breathe. The next day she came up to see me. She like brought me a coffee, and she's like, look, I spent all night thinking about what you said to me. And I do remember you were very different to all of your sisters. And it's, you did have these kind of issues around gender from a young age. And this is back in the 90s. So I didn't really know what to do about it, because I've only seen things like at that point, say like on Oprah, but it's not been talked about in a good way. It's actually saying it's a mental health disorder. And I didn't want you to like have like this horrible therapist, I don't know, give you a bad time, or I didn't know what to do about it. So I feel like she felt guilty that she hadn't done something. But I was like, well, I've only just realized myself. So how can you know, like, for sure? And she was like, I just want you to be happy. So whatever that like looks like, I do support you, and I do want you to be happy, and that I'm here for you. So that was like a really big relief. Like, me and my mum, we've always had a good relationship, but it was scarier than coming out as like before, when you just come out like as a lesbian, or when people come out as gay. Like when you're trans, it's something that's very visible on the outside. You can't hide it as much. Once you're starting to do certain things, it's on the outside so people can see. Where your sexuality, you could argue that if you don't want to like show it as much, you can kind of conceal it a little bit more. Not that anyone should, but I feel like when you transition, you don't really get to choose as much, especially in the early days. It's like maybe people go stealth, but in the beginning, when you're growing out your hair or you're cutting your hair, like these are quite obvious things visually, or suddenly changing completely how you dress and everything. It gets a lot of attention. But basically my mom was happy. She told one of my sisters, and then obviously the other sister told the other sister. So that it's all like that. But I remember my little sister being the cutest, because when I don't know, my sisters must have told her, but she came to me one day, and she's just like sitting on the end of my bed and just being nice. And she was like, oh, I always wanted a big brother, and I'm really happy that I've got one now. And you kind of always have been like big brother compared to like my other sister, where the next one down from me, she's always been like their big sis, and they'll go to her for certain things, where I've always been more like a different kind of role to them and protecting them and looking out for them. And it's been a different relationship. Like, I wouldn't talk about boys with my sisters, and they always found that weird, but I just never did. Except for like, no, he's not good for you. There's that type of advice, but I can understand the dynamics more now that I look back on these things, and we laugh about it. But yes, she was just really happy and cute. So I got a lot of love and support from my family, my little family, but we've been through so much together. Like, we call ourselves a little tribe. We don't really have a great relationship with our wider family for years, just for many different reasons. So we are like this strong unit, and that has been a big blessing, because I know a lot of people struggle with this, and a lot of the work that I do outside of like my creative world or what you see online is I work with people's parents and youth groups, because I really do want to create that bridge of showing them like your life is not over if you transition. Like, it's not, doesn't mean you can't be successful, doesn't mean you can't be loved. I want to show people that all these things are possible, because sometimes that parent as well is a bit lost and they just are scared about the future of their child. And if they have that little bit of hope and that bit of reassurance, then sometimes I think they're more likely to get on board, because sometimes it's out of fear. Like, it's not just all discrimination or hate. Sometimes it's they don't want you to be on the end of, being assaulted. They don't want you to be rejected from workplaces, or that you're never going to find love. So it's interesting how people's fears manifest in different ways in terms of how they behave.
Hey, this is Sean Aaron, the host of Dem Bois Podcast. Are you enjoying the podcast so far? Great. I'm glad that you are. Would you consider donating today to help support the continuation of this podcast? As you know, this podcast aims to serve as a platform to highlight and amplify the voices of trans men of color and share our transition stories. The podcast not only aims to amplify trans men of color voices, but it also raises awareness around our lived experiences. You would like to donate? Where can you donate? Great. I'm glad that you asked. Link in our description will take you directly to Network for Good, whom we've partnered with in order to collect donations for the podcast. Or you can visit our website. On the website, click the donate button, and from there, you are able to donate directly to the podcast. All donations are tax deductible. What does the donations go to? Oh, I'm glad that you asked. Your donation will help to support our production costs. We are working with Jasmine from Pink Lady Productions that brings you this awesome content. And also, we pay our guests an honorarium. Pay our guests an honorarium? Yes, we do. Why? Because as trans men of color, we would like to support and uplift each other and honor the time that's given out to come here and share their stories. So if you love this podcast, share and donate. See you on the next episode. Take care.
So that's basically like the beginning. And then like, this is like how many years? I've been on testosterone for about 5 years now. And I think something that I made very clear to myself, almost like a promise to myself in the early days of my transition, was that now that I've chosen to transition, I saw it like a second life. So in the sense that it's my duty to myself to go out and live the best life that I possibly can. To not see it just like, don't get me wrong, there's hardships, especially because the outside world discriminates against trans people. We do come under attack politically and socially. But in general, in terms of my relationship to myself and how I'm going to see the world, I'm going to make the absolute most of it and reclaim everything and anything that I want and recreate the memories that I didn't have, and sometimes do things that I didn't think I would achieve until I was a certain point in my transition. But actually, because I kind of had that intention and put my heart set on things, I achieved them earlier. So I can't remember where I was going with that, but it's been a whole reframing of how I see myself and how I see the world. And I truly am grateful to be on a journey where I can be comfortable in my skin, live authentically, find that empowerment, rather than being like, oh my God, I'm trans, I'm not good enough. Because in the first 6 months of transitioning, I definitely had those feelings, and I've just tried to move away from that as much as possible. And now, like every year, I kind of gain more confidence, but also you've got to go out there and seek experiences, because that also adds to your confidence. The more that you can experience things and be open and connect to others and be true to yourself, all these things add layers and build character. So that's probably why I'm in the place that I'm in now. And yeah, I had about 3 years ago, I had my top surgery, which was in America. It was in Ohio with Dr. Daniel Medali. So, I work as a model, and I'm getting ready for my first ever bodybuilding show. I'll be doing the men's fitness category. And again, like lately, I'm having to do my posing practices in a gym,
or going to posing camps with other cisgendered men and I'm in my underwear and shirtless and like,
all these different things. I'm really grateful for that. And Point of Pride helped me with a grant. I was the first ever international person that they awarded some funding for. And then I did like a 3-year crowdfunding campaign and saved in that. So yeah, it's been a journey like to get to this point, but I'm happy and I'm the most successful I've ever been. But I'm also, in terms of relationships, I can give my whole self to any relationship that I have, whether it's as like, someone who's mentoring other younger people, whether it's in a partnership or as somebody's son, brother, as a friend, I can give so much more. And I didn't realize how much I was like withdrawn or neglecting that or just being a fraction of myself until I began this journey. And now looking back, it's like, I can't believe that I put up with that for so long, but it's sometimes making that decision scary.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. One thing that it's a few things that stuck out to me. And the one thing in particular is being able to transition in a loving environment with your family. I talk about this often. And on episode 3, I talked about surviving homelessness and how my mother, when she found out, she just, she used other reasons, but I was homeless for 2.5 years because she just kicked me out. But I always say that if a person, I don't care who you are, it could be any person, trans, identified or anybody, if you have the love from your parent, whatever the rest of the world has to say does not even matter. And so you work with trans youth, you work with parents, like what would be like some of your advice to someone listening? Maybe they're not trans identified, maybe they're a parent and they're listening because they want to understand the lives of trans folks. What would be like your advice to a parent?
I think for the parents, I would just say, try to take yourself out of your head and what you've heard, because a lot of this information is specifically around transness is from the media. And the media, if you look at any media about any topic, it's very toxic. It's very fear inducing. So you cannot base all your opinions on this. What you need to do is, your own research and be patient with your child, be patient with yourself, also be kind to yourself. Like, you're both going on a journey and
you don't have to get everything perfect. But what you do need to do is live compassionately and try to see how it might feel from your child's point of view as well. So again, remove yourself from the situation, see it from their eyes.
And any decent parent, if you genuinely love your child, then love should be unconditional. It's not, I love you if you do this, I love you if you go to law school, but if you turn out to be an actor, I hate you, you're disowned. It's not, I love you if you go marry and be in a hetero relationship. Oh no, sorry, that love's expired now that you're gay or you're trans. It's like, if you really mean that you love, then love hasn't got any barriers. It's pure. It's just what it is. And you might have to work on building a new relationship. Say like with my mum as an example, my mum jokes and she says like, it's almost like she's had twins, as in me, my previous self and to now. So rather than all the parents kind of going down the path of like this, my child's died, like, no, your child, the essence and the soul of your child is sitting in front of you, or they're still on this realm. And for me, I tell people, I carry all of the memories before. They're in my spirit, they're in my body, they're in my soul. That's not been erased. All that is you're allowing something that maybe was trapped to blossom and bloom. And it takes time. So sometimes parents are worried if they don't see that their child's immediately happy. I know my mum was like, okay, so I've been supportive, you're transitioning, but you don't really seem happy. You seem a bit down, you seem a bit depressed at the moment. But I just had to explain it's because it takes time. Like, I'm starting from scratch. My moods are up and down, or I'm waiting for hormones, or people are misgendering me every day. Like, life hasn't suddenly gone perfect just because I've made the decision. It takes time. It's like if you started a business, you don't open the doors and everyone's rushing you and be like, yeah, I'll buy everything, I'll take the lot. No, it's like, it's a constant process that evolves. So you just need to be like anything in life, like be a part of that process. And the more you can be involved, the more that you can understand. And you might not understand it all right now, and that might be okay, but don't give up on your child. Like, don't turn your back on them, because even if the world is scary, even if it's out of a place because you just kind of almost want to bully them to not transition because you think that's going to protect them and keep them safe. It's not. All you're doing is pushing them away and making them more vulnerable. So think about that. And for me personally, I kind of like what you just said before. I know like anyone can thrive with the right network of support. So sometimes that's chosen family. But in terms of like, if there is an opportunity to rebuild a relationship that's already at home, it's like that love that I have from my mom and my sisters. You know, I don't even have a relationship with my dad, but the love I have from my mom and my sisters, it's almost like a shield. It's like a layer of protection that no matter what happens outside of my house or beyond, even if someone discriminates me or targets me, I have a lot more strength because I know that I'm loved. Where when there's relationships where you're made to feel less than, then you doubt yourself, and you start to think, do I deserve to be mistreated? Do I deserve this? And the psychological implications when people are kind of getting neglected and not receiving that love is huge. So as a parent, if you say you love your child, then be there. Just be there and figure it out as you go along. Take that journey together, because you'll have your light bulb moments. There'll be moments where it will make sense to you just because you can't see it right now. It's like have faith. The steps will come, the doors will open, you'll have these alignment moments. And I remember my mom, like, she was always supportive in the beginning, but I remember there's a few moments in my transition that I feel like the penny really dropped for her. And I think at one point when my voice was changing, or I was starting to get like my face was changing, one day she just turned around and she was just like, she just really noticed that there was like a young man in her house. And obviously, like, with all the girls there, it was quite like a strong image for her one day. And when I came back from surgery, obviously I went to the US. I didn't go with my mom. So when I came back to London and I showed her my chest for the first time, like, she literally cried and she was just like, oh my God, like, I know what you've been saying this whole time, but this is like something that's, I really, really can understand like everything that you've gone through in the last like 3 years or so. Just in one moment, I can just see how happy you are. And like, she gave me a hard time when I got my hair cut. Even when she was being supportive, she didn't want me to cut my love. Nobody wanted me. My hair used to be down to my hips. Like, people would pay to have my hair. Like, all the girls in my any group, they wish they had my hair. So the mention of cutting my hair was like as if it was this sacred thing, and it just was like, no. But at that point, it was like my biggest dysphoria. And even though I only had like a mid haircut and I ended up having like braids and undercut, and everyone thought it was really cool, and I felt happy like that. She was, the day I went to get my haircut, we was arguing the day before. We was arguing all morning until I got home, and she's like, oh, actually, it's not so bad. When I go, oh, you look nice, actually. So some of it's like the anxiety and fear, but yeah, for the parents, just don't turn your back. Like your child needs you right now. So don't worry about what other people think of you, because I think half of it is about, oh, what will my neighbors say? What will my parents say? What will the school say? Like, don't worry about what they say, because they're not as important to you as your child. Your child should come first, and it might make you need to step up as a person. It might make you need to expand your comfort zone or your horizons. But I promise you, it'll be worth it to keep that relationship with your child, and it protects them. It protects them from a lot of the cruelness of this world, and it puts them at less risk of many different things. And if you really love, then prove it. Be there.
I love that you said a parent's love should not expire. That's just it. That's a token. Like, if you love your child, it should never expire, no matter what. And sometimes it's hard, right? Because I'm a parent too. My son is 25 years old. And sometimes it's hard, being a parent. Sometimes you're like, who is this fucking person? But then, at the end of the day, like, whatever you do, no matter what, I still love you. My love doesn't expire, and I'm here for you no matter what it is, And at the end of the day, parents have to realize that children grow up. and they become individuals. And so
Mm-hmm.
as the most important thing as a parent is to know that you taught your child to be kind, to be a productive person and all those things, right? And anything other than that, that's a part of their journey in their life. So it's like, just show up and be supportive. That's the most important thing. So you are a trans advocate, correct? So
Mm-hmm.
we're on two sides of the world. You're in the UK, I'm here in the US. So my question is, how is the climate? Is it different? Is it the same?
It's definitely different because we're just a different. I suppose the UK, we have different ways of expressing things. Like sometimes things can be more subtle. Maybe like certain things can be more subtle, but we are having a hard time. Like globally, trans people, we're having a hard time. At like every time you turn on any news, there's more policies just out to get us and to try and close more doors. And here in the UK, we're having issues still, like with all the bathrooms. And we've got J.K. Rowling, who was so many of our heroes. I mean, I don't even know if I want to open that can of worms, but just thinking about UK stuff, like she's someone that, especially across the pond, like, she's a British, most successful author. She inspired so many people. And yet there's a lot of news this year that she's been featured in just completely slating trans people. And it's created a lot of, all these things, they always have an impact. And I think people need to realize they're not isolated incidences. When somebody publicly is putting a lot of hate on a group of people, then people think that it stamps their license. So you get other people just suddenly making articles. And then next thing, people, are not trying to revoke different policies that they've been taking to Parliament. I'll be honest, I've not been tuning in the last 3 months because it's really overwhelming sometimes. And I'm sort of just put my athlete head on, and even just TV, I don't really watch as much at the moment. And I'm trying to be really guarded and mindful of what I literally consume, not just like nutrition, but in terms of what I hear. So I'm not as up to date in this particular moment in time, but there's just here in the UK, we've still got huge waiting times to medically transition. There's a lot of talk about like the gender recognition certificate. At one point, they were going to change it and not make it so hard to access, and now they're backtracking. There's a lot of things that were promised. I can't even remember all the details of everything, but anything that we felt like we was maybe getting somewhere, even just a year ago, because of all the scandals in the media, it's like people going, "Oh no, we don't want that," or "We're scared." And then even like trans people in sports is quite a hot topic at the moment. People are just putting more and more things in place to exclude trans athletes from sports. But what then happens is it filters down even at a community level. So some people are just kicking around a football in a park. Nobody's getting injured. Nobody's losing out on funding or a trophy. It then becomes like, actually, you might not have access to this community event because you're trans and we've heard all these things about you. So it's being mindful of how things have an effect. And even me going into my first like competition and as a trans athlete, I'm entering 2 competitions, but I was rejected from one of them because I'm trans. And it's not fair. I'd be competing against cis men, and I still feel like as a trans athlete, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter if you're a trans man or a trans woman, it's just like everyone's like, "Oh, you're discriminating against us." When in reality, like, we as a community are probably the most disadvantaged, but yet somehow the world just keeps going, "Oh no, you're disadvantaging us." And it's just like, I don't understand that. So yeah, things are not great. Like, I think we have a lot of good community here. Like there's a lot of people are resourceful, and there's a lot of like, I personally hang out with a lot of creatives, and I think there's a lot of like self startups and things that we know what the community need, and loads of individuals make their own kind of groups and safe spaces, which is great. And we have a few quite big charities here that are amazing. I work with Not a Phase here in the UK. So they're a trans-led charity who support the lives of trans people. So we do loads of social events. We run a fitness and wellness program, which I'm the head coach of that, and it's completely free. We've partnered up with some big gyms, and yeah, that's something that we can provide, and we do sober spaces and all these different things. You've got mermaids who help like the younger trans people. So we have things in place. We do have like legal rights to a certain extent, like in work, you know, if someone discriminates against you on paper, you know, you have something to say, but it's more like sometimes facilitating the staff and the microaggressions. Sometimes that's harder to capture and to address. But, you know, I'm someone that do a lot of diversity and inclusion training too. So I do think a lot more work is needed with a lot more organizations. But we have things compared to other places in the world, but things are not where they could be, perhaps.
Right.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Once again, I'm your host. My name is Sean Aaron. Be sure to like, be sure to share this show out with folks in your networks. If you would like to connect with us, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also visit our website at dembois.org. That's DEMBOIS.org. If you think you will make a great guest on the show, or maybe you have a question for myself or a future guest that you would like to hear answered on the show, please send an email to hello@dembois.org. That's HELLO@dembois.org. Until next time, take care.
If you yourself or someone you know is having a difficult time, there's some resources out there for you. First is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Their phone number is 1-800-273-8255. Also, there's a Trans Lifeline, which is a peer support phone service run by trans people for trans people. Their phone number is 877-565-8860. Then there's the Trevor Project, which provides 24/7 crisis support to LGBTQ youth. Their phone number is 866-488-7386. Also, Sage LGBTQ plus Elder Hotline. This connects LGBTQ older people who want to talk to other friendly responders who are ready to listen. Their phone number is 877-360-5428. Lastly, there's the Veterans Crisis Line for veterans, military personnel, and their families. You can call 988 and press 1 or text 838-255. If you would like to know more information about these resources, be sure to follow this episode, click on the show notes, and from there you will be able to find out more information about each of these resources.